Hey everyone, Paul here. Bear with me, I've got my show notes ready to go, and holy mother of God, am I tired. It has been one hell of a week, and I think the whole world is probably exhausted at this point. I've been talking to people in the UK that are tired from our elections here, which is apparently still going on if you look at the streets in some of our major cities. But I guess I better start out this podcast by saying welcome to podcast number 2, Mancast number 2, actually. That's what I decided. That was the stupid fucking name I decided to give this thing. My last video, I just wanted to make a note of this about white men and generally men, and probably a lot of white men playing a role in it, carrying the election for Trump. I probably misspoke. I mean, there was a lot of factors that contributed to the election going Trump's way. There was he got at least last I read, something like 53% of the female vote. I mean, who knew? He carried women. He did better than expected with minorities. And plus, a lot of Hillary supporters decided that she just wasn't worth going out to vote for. But I still don't think there's any arguing that angry men of all stripes played a part in this election. And it's kind of a cool thing because it is the first time that I can recall, and like I'm pushing 60, right? So I can recall quite a few elections. And this is the first one that I ever recall it even being legitimate to say that men as a group were an important demographic in the vote. And they were. They absolutely were. Everybody knows. I mean, the media is playing up probably a lot more of a deal of it than it actually was. In my last video, I put up on the screen the GQ headline saying it was angry white men, and there was other media outlets doing it, and they were really just doing that because they wanted to paint a picture of, MRA types, people like me, woman haters, racist, all that stuff that they like to call us, even though we're not. They wanted to paint that picture, but there is some truth to it, that men are a demographic, and it is going to make the upcoming administration all the more interesting. And I mean, I'm already on to some shit about this, and I'm not going to talk about tonight, but I will be in other podcasts. But men are finally a demographic. They're going to play a role in shaping the cultural narrative. I really believe that a lot of this PC bullshit is going out of business. It's bankrupt, and that people are going to start paying attention to men in a new way. And I'm not saying that they're going to take MRAs seriously or that they're going to take MGTOW seriously, but they are going to start taking men more seriously. You can tell people you heard it here first. You can tell people you think I'm fucking crazy too if you want to. But the fact is that Donald Just Grab a Pussy got elected after saying things that would have had any other presidential or any other political candidate almost in any country around the world absolutely banished. He broke every rule over and over and over again, and he got elected anyway because people are fed up with that particular set of fucking rules, and I don't blame them. And then we got the fucking rioters. And we've got and I know some of you, I mean, this is going to be news to some of you, but I know some of you have seen it, that we now have on one or two of the university campuses, I think it was Columbia, it doesn't matter, they're all the fucking same anyway. They've got students walking around with safety pins on their shirts to indicate that they're a safe person to talk to, that they're a walking, talking safe space. As you know, what safety pins also double is diaper pins, and that's pretty fucking appropriate. I mean, oh my God. There are people walking around saying, it's okay, be safe with me. This is on a college campus. These are the people that are going to run the fucking world, supposedly, after they graduate. But I think they're going to find a really interesting change of events. I'm looking at a future where I see the funding for a lot of these gender studies and social sciences graduates that either just go into teaching more people to think like asshats, or they go into government mid-level management positions and bureaucrats. We're going to start seeing the funding dry up for that shit. So I'm also going to predict here that over the next few years, we're going to see a major shift in universities and their attitudes toward things like safe spaces. I know that many of you probably think that's a whole lot of wishful thinking, but to me, it's not. I think the signs are on the wall. I mean, I think I heard correctly earlier this evening that Stephen Bannon from Breitbart is now going to be the chief strategist for the Trump administration. I mean, do you get what that's saying? This guy is a culture warrior on the right side of the fence, in charge of White House strategy. I'm loving this shit. And who knows, maybe it'll all fall apart. Maybe it won't work. Maybe nothing that I'm prognosticating about here is going to come true. But there's a chance for it. There's a real bona fide legitimate chance, because Trump managed to rile up about 40 million people who just are tired of this shit. And I just think it is excellent. Then we have the rioters. I was going to get on that a minute ago, and I sort of wandered. Sorry about that. Let me take a sip of my blackcurrant tea. Oh, God, I love that shit. Anyway, the rioters. Yeah, the rioters. The people that are now Hillary's people, Bernie's people. And a lot of extremist left-wing antagonists buried in the middle of that who are doing violence on the streets. It's even happening in Texas, folks. For fuck's sake, in Fort Worth, they're doing it. And apparently a couple of nights ago, one of them got shot in Portland. And, I am, by nature, not a violent person. I don't like it. I don't like this shit happening, acting out by a bunch of punks on the street and a bunch of bitches that things didn't go their way. And, you're seeing a lot of these are also straight off of our college campuses that now they can't take a fucking test because their bitch didn't win the election. And they can't go to school because their bitch didn't win the election. These are the people that are going to be staffing our law offices and running for office and being our doctors and lawyers in the future. Wow, that's just fucking scary. But they're out there tearing shit up. And now one of them, I don't know if the one that got shot in Portland was shot by another protester thinking he was shooting a Trump supporter, or if it was just somebody who had had enough and said, fuck this, and shot one of them. I don't agree with the shooting at all, no matter who did it. But I got to admit, I got this kind of like this sort of fantasy edge to me that I think about. I watched this video the other night of them beating some old man, just wailing on him, kicking him while he was on the ground, saying that he voted for Trump. And they were beating the stuffing out of him, beating the crap out of him. And when I was watching that video, and this guy hadn't provoked anybody, they just thought, they didn't know. I think it turned out that he had voted for Trump, but the people beating his ass didn't know that he had voted for Trump. And so they just attacked him and beat the crap out of him. And I just said, I'm sorry. Like I said, I'm a peaceful guy, but I had this image of Michonne, I'm Walking Dead, of him just like reaching into his car and coming out with this goddamn, samurai sword and running it through the eye socket of one of them, having it poke out the back of his head, kick him in the chest, get him off the sword, and then pivot and swing around and chop off a couple of heads and watch them bounce along the ground like they were ripe cantaloupe and come to a dead stop. People, we found with the voters, and again, I'm not endorsing this shit. I'm just telling you what went through my head. I don't want anybody to hurt anybody. I think in a few days that these riots will quell down, that these guys will figure out, hey, dumb fuck, the election's over. You got nothing to protest except the democratic process, and lots of luck with that. But it's dangerous because there are people in this country now, obviously, who are kind of fed up. There are people in this country now that are willing to buck the system and willing to stand up about it. And so far, as we know, almost all of them have been entirely peaceful. But you start burning down businesses, attacking cars, rioting in the streets, attacking people in general because they're white, because they look like they might have voted for Trump, or for whatever reason, sooner or later, that stuff is going to end up, I know I'm locked and loaded, and I know I won't let anybody take my life. You do the math. That's all I got to say about that. But anyway, it has been a long, exhausting week. I feel like I have a hangover from hell, even though I haven't even been drinking. But just staying up all night for the election and then just walking around like the rest of the world in a stupor, hearing the news utter the words President-elect Trump over and over again. And it's almost like I go into that zone again, just not believing that it actually happened. And yeah, I know there's going to be a lot of guys, hey, man, he's the establishment sellout. Yeah, and you know what? You may be right. Okay, I'll give you that. I've got no reason to believe that Trump is any kind of messiah. But I think the writing on the wall is that the voters are saying he better be. He better follow through with his mandate. He better follow through with his campaign promises, because if he starts wheeling and dealing away everything he promised to get him elected, we could start having some real trouble on the streets here. Luckily, my forecast is that he ain't going to do that. My forecast is that he's going to start building a wall, and he's going to start renegotiating trade deals, and he's going to start getting rid of criminal illegals, which needs to happen, and he's going to start following through with everything that he promised on. I believe the guy will do that. Excuse me. Anyway, that's enough of that. I'm going to go on. At this point, and for those of you listening to this on YouTube, we're at about 12 minutes or so here. This is a point that I'm going to end this conversation and invite you to the rest of it. I'm going to be talking some more. I'm going to be talking about the MRA label controversy. I'm going to be talking about a few other things, legalized marijuana, all kinds of things. You name it. I'm going to cover a lot of topics, but this is how I'm trying to beef up the support that I really do need on Patreon, is to provide these podcasts, the entire version of it, to anyone who supports me at any level on Patreon. If you pledge $1 per video and cap it at $1 a month, you'll get access to these complete podcasts. They are there very inexpensively. I just wanted to provide a little incentive for people who do part with some of their hard-earned cash, because believe me, I really appreciate that. I know that money is tight these days. The economy's not good. Most guys got to work their ass off for money anyway, and it's the ultimate compliment and the ultimate feeling of support for me when somebody parts with even $1 to help me do this work. It makes a big difference. So if you'd like to hear the rest of this, I invite you to be one of those guys, and if not, that's cool too. I'll continue to put up the first few minutes of these podcasts on YouTube and just leave the rest for my Patreon supporters. But anyways, thank you with that, and for now, sign off for YouTube. You guys have a great day.